Stop it, Meghan. With those three sharp words, the frozen calm of a winter dawn was shattered, and the British monarchy did something so wild no one could have predicted it. A tiny USB drive gripped tight in Princess Anne's hand has now exposed a shocking link, a controversial stock purchase tied to a Dubai broker already being watched by Interpol. It all went down at the crack of dawn, February 24, 2026. The Princess Royal stood before flashing cameras for barely 3 minutes, yet in that short moment, she flipped the royal world upside down. Her statement confirmed two bombshell truths that completely rewrote what we thought we knew about royal power. First, she revealed that an ancient royal guardianship protocol, a secret legal tool buried since 1952's post-war chaos, had been pulled out of the archives and reactivated. It's been given a brand new name and assigned directly to Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor and Lilibet Diana, according to legal documents quietly filed with the Supreme Court. This move gives the reigning monarch absolute control over how any royal child is raised if the palace decides their identity might be turned into a commercial product. While officials slammed the nasty online rumors claiming the kids don't carry Windsor blood, they've also refused to confirm whether any DNA tests were ever done, keeping everyone guessing. The palace isn't calling this science, they're calling it humanitarian action. Princess Anne threw it way back to the 1990s, bringing up those cruel old whispers claiming Prince Harry was secretly the son of a household cavalry officer. Those rumors tore through his childhood, wrecked his bond with King Charles III, and kept the tabloids busy for years. Those bloodline insults nearly broke a 12-year-old Harry, and now the palace is drawing a firm line in the sand. They're making it crystal clear there won't be a repeat of that nightmare with his kids. Insiders say Meghan's alleged game plan comes down to a desperate three-part strategy, and it's not pretty. Step 1. Attention economics. She's accused of trying to drag the crown into public confrontation to stay relevant while her lifestyle empire falls apart. Step 2. Financial leverage. Rumors suggest she's using the uncertainty of transatlantic custody to lock in steady royal money. Step 3. Narrative control. Keeping tight rights over her children's images to fuel future entertainment deals. But according to Anne's icy, calculated statement, only the first move worked. Meghan may have the world spotlight for now, but the palace has taken back everything that matters: the timing, the courts, and even the control of royal welfare funds. The quiet years are done. The royal reset is officially underway. The reactivation of the Royal Emergency Guardianship Protocol, the regp, hidden deep in the palace archives, isn't just legal housekeeping, it's a power move that changes the game forever. It's like digging up a constitutional ghost. To grasp the full weight of what Princess Anne unleashed at dawn, we have to rewind to 1949, a world still picking up the pieces after war. Back then, royal lawmakers crafted a secret protocol meant for one terrifying what-if: the sudden death of a regent before a legal guardian for the heir could be named. That's how the monarchy prepared for chaos, the ultimate backup plan in case power vanished overnight. When King George VI passed in 1952, that hidden mechanism was quietly triggered to protect young Prince Charles during the shaky days of the coronation year. For 74 long years, it sat buried in dusty archives, a forgotten break glass in case of crisis rule that most scholars thought would never see daylight again. But Anne just cracked that glass, and now the ghost of royal control is walking again. This time the fight isn't over. Fallen empires or crumbling colonies, it's over crashing markets, viral feeds, and digital chaos. The palace finally saw it. The old rules of protection are dead. In today's world, a royal child's face can become a digital asset before they can even talk. That's when the monarchy decided survival required something bold, a total takeover of parental authority to defend the royal brand itself. This new version of the ancient charter isn't stuck in the past, it's been surgically remade for the modern world. It now fuses royal power with global law, merging the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Hague Abduction Convention. Every clause, every word was executed like a silent strike, clean, precise, and absolutely ruthless. At exactly 9:12 a.m. GMT, February 24th, the calm between two nations cracked wide open. The United Kingdom's central authority skipped all the usual red tape and went straight to the top, firing off a batch of high-priority alerts to the U.S. Office of Children's Issues. This wasn't a polite diplomatic request, it was a sovereign declaration. Within just 90 minutes, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security had flagged the American passports of Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana under a protective notice. The message coming from London couldn't have been louder. These kids are no longer just private citizens of California, they're official wards of the British Crown. Their very residence has now become an issue of state security. And when Princess Anne faced the cameras again, she wasn't alone. Standing shoulder to shoulder beside her were Prince William and Duchess Sophie, the insider's now famous tripartite shield. Together, they unveiled an order that's untouchable, non-revocable by design, and packed with power. The Royal Emergency Guardianship Protocol now locks in 3 unbreakable defenses meant to wipe out the Sussexes' main sources of leverage. First up, the digital image moratorium. Every single commercial deal involving the children's photos or likenesses is frozen worldwide until they turn 18. Any streamer, brand, or media outlet daring to cash in will get slammed by the Crown's legal hammer. The second pillar, the genealogy escrow, is where things get even colder, and the stakes rise sky high. Authentic birth records, the real deal, have been locked away deep inside a sealed vault at Sandringham, untouchable until Archie and Lilibet reach adulthood. That move alone wipes out any future attempt to twist or sell DNA stories for clicks or profit. Then comes the third pillar, the jurisdictional override. It declares that any civil ruling made by a foreign court means nothing inside the United Kingdom unless the monarch personally signs off. That's a legal knockout punch only the Crown could throw. Prince William, icy and composed, broke his silence with words that sent shivers through the press room. He called the move a royal reset and made it clear this isn't some PR stunt or slogan. This is a full-blown reclamation of the Windsor identity. By channeling the spirit of 1952, the palace made its stance loud and clear. They're ready to return to the old rules of monarchy to protect what's theirs, no matter who stands in the way. The fight has now shifted. No more social media brawls or tabloid showdowns. The palace has dragged it straight into the silent, stone-cold corridors of constitutional law. The protocol is live, the shield is raised, and for the first time in 70-plus years, the Crown has seized full authority over a younger royal generation. It's proof that while the world changes fast, the throne's power still hits harder than ever. But here's the real twist. While everyone was still caught up in the emotional shock of the guardianship bombshell, the palace had already launched something even more strategic, a financial strike. Behind the scenes, they've been dismantling the money machine that fuels Montecito's influence. The Crown has finally realized that the Sussex story was never just about ideology, it's about a collapsing cash flow. And to cut that power, they didn't just roll out a legal protocol, they built an entire financial dossier ready to expose where the money truly moves. This is the shadow campaign behind the royal reset, a chilling, calculated move that palace insiders are calling the Dubai connection. At the center of Princess Anne's mysterious silver USB drive lies the spark that set it all off. Hard evidence of a $3 million wire transfer sent to Meghan in late 2024. The palace isn't naming the person behind it, not yet, but the clues they've dropped are absolutely explosive. Sources close to the Met Police and top international finance units have confirmed what everyone feared. The sender is allegedly a high-profile Gulf financier already under active surveillance for money laundering. This same figure is rumored to have ties to shady art auction schemes, luxury yacht deals, and price-fixing rings stretching from Doha to Port Rashid. It's the kind of global money trail that makes entire banks nervous. The Crown's message couldn't be clearer. The Sussexes didn't just chase financial independence, they may have wandered straight into the orbit of people toxic to the world's financial system. The evidence locked inside that tiny USB, according to sources who've seen it under the Official Secrets Act, is pure investigative dynamite. Inside, there are confirmed wire receipts from Doha and Dubai branches of a major Gulf bank, labeled neatly as consultancy retainers. But the real shocker? An unsigned term sheet for something called the Crystal Marina Project. The document allegedly offers Meghan a 10% cut of net profits, all in exchange for what's described in cold business terms as a Western Royal Halo product strategy. It's a power play dressed as a contract, and it's shaking every level of royal and global finance. Adding a shocking touch of personal closeness, that silver USB reportedly holds 4 high-resolution photos snapped aboard a private yacht in November 2024. In the images, Meghan is seen locked in deep conversation with the mysterious investor allegedly talking about ways to monetize royal prestige. If these photos ever go public, it wouldn't just be a PR nightmare, it could light up government radars on both sides of the Atlantic. Experts say the material could trigger formal investigations into possible breaches of the UK's anti-bribery laws and the US Foreign Agents Registration Act. That's no small scandal. It's the kind that can turn headlines into subpoenas overnight. So why would the Sussexes risk a move like that? Insiders claim the answer lies in the brutal math of their California dream, a lifestyle built on a financial cliff edge. Palace investigators dug through court filings and found something jaw-dropping. The Monteceto estate isn't the picture of success anymore. It's a financial time bomb. Deep inside paragraph 4 of the risk annex, they uncovered a $9.4 million bridge loan taken out against the property in mid-2025. The catch? It came with a brutal interest rate of 14.25%, a number that screams high risk in the lending world. By January 31st, that loan had officially slipped into default. But that's not where the trouble stops. A second attachment in the same court filing revealed why no bank wants to touch a refinance deal. Once lenders saw the ownership structure, a Delaware-based holding company called Desert Rose Project LLC, 90% controlled by Meghan, and realized it had accepted cash infusions from an investor already flagged by Interpol, every door slammed shut. Now the palace has found its perfect pressure point. They're tightening the screws financially by freezing all commercial use of the royal children's images, turning the Sussexes' own brand machine into a trap they can't escape. The palace has just cut off the Sussexes' main source of collateral, and the fallout is brutal. With the new restrictions in place, they can't sell a transatlantic princess animated series, a royal childhood docuseries, or any project built around their kids. Without that leverage, the Sussex media empire has nosedived in value, and fast. Streaming analysts are already slashing their long-term revenue forecasts, some rating the Sussex production slate's worth at almost zero. Even Hollywood is backing away. Leaked internal emails from several major studios warn staff to avoid mentioning the children in any pitch decks or project proposals until image rights are legally untangled, which, under the new protocol, won't happen for another 16 years. That's a lifetime in media years. Meanwhile, pressure is exploding from across the Atlantic. The UK's Serious Fraud Office has quietly launched a confidential intelligence review into suspicious money transfers funneled through the Sussexes' Beverly Hills escrow agent. British lenders, terrified of being dragged into a royal money laundering scandal, have told their private banking divisions to freeze all new financial activity tied to the couple's California assets. And the clock is ticking fast. A foreclosure hearing on the Montecito estate is already locked in for late February. If no refinancing deal materializes, it's a countdown with royal consequences. Princess Anne's ultimatum couldn't be sharper. The day the children are moved to a non-Hague jurisdiction is the day the Dubai files go public. She's not bluffing, and she's not talking about a tabloid headline. This is a total financial excommunication. The palace has built a ruthless narrative, boxing Meghan into two brutal choices. She can either sign the consent, sending the children back under crown protection, a move that would temporarily freeze the release of the damning Dubai files, or she can keep fighting, knowing it could unleash federal investigations, expose every dollar of her business network, and wipe out what's left of her commercial empire. In the ruthless arena of royal power, time has always been the monarchy's oldest ally, but for the Sussexes, every silent hour bleeds money they can't afford to lose. That silver USB still sits on Princess Anne's desk, glowing like a quiet threat, a silent sentinel guarding over the slow collapse of an empire built on attention and headlines. To truly grasp the ferocity behind the crown's latest offensive, you've got to look deeper than the financial filings and courtroom paperwork, straight into the psychological wounds that still echo through Windsor's corridors. This isn't just strategy anymore, it's a moral crusade. Princess Anne's private briefing to senior ministers, now circulating through the highest layers of government, doesn't mince words. It cites a haunting trauma from the 1990s, something burned into royal memory, the vicious identity-mongering that nearly broke a 12-year-old Prince Harry. By pulling that chapter out of history, the palace made its message crystal clear. They're done with damage control. Now it's all about prevention. The archives from that decade tell a brutal story. A young prince caught in the crossfire of a tabloid war. Sunday papers splashed with cruel claims that Captain James Hewitt, not Prince Charles, was his real father. The fallout was devastating. At Eton, classmates taunted him mercilessly, calling him Little Copper, a nickname that stuck like venom. Diaries from the late royal nanny, Olga Powell, revealed heartbreaking details. A child crippled by panic attacks every Sunday morning, terrified of seeing his life dissected on the front pages before breakfast. Now, decades later, those scars have been weaponized into royal resolve. The crown isn't just protecting its image anymore, it's protecting its bloodline from ever being humiliated like that again. That dark chapter tore a brutal emotional rift between father and son, one that took nearly a decade to even begin to heal. And while time moved on, the whispers never stopped. 3 decades later, those same paternity rumors still creep through the hidden corners of the internet, keeping the ghosts of the past alive. Princess Anne, having watched her family's privacy disintegrate in real time, has drawn her own line in the sand. Prevention, not repair, is now the state's official mission. That mission has been forged into law through the Royal Emergency Guardianship Protocol, the Crown's newest weapon of control. At its core sits a brand new ironclad Clause C banning any commercial DNA tests, truth bomb podcasts, or docuseries cliffhangers about the children's lineage. Under this clause, Archie and Lilibet's identities are declared matters of national heritage, not tabloid content or streaming material for corporate profit. It's the monarchy's emotional high ground, a fortress built to protect its blood from the media circus. But that same fortress has trapped Prince Harry in an impossible bind, legally, emotionally, and personally. Insiders describe him as a man torn between two worlds. His legal counsel in the US warns that siding too closely with the crown could sabotage his permanent American residency, while resisting the protocol would pit him directly against his sister, his brother, and his father. It's the kind of royal dilemma that can't be solved in court, only in conscience. Late on February 25th, Harry reportedly reached out for help of a different kind, requesting a private Zoom call with the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. He wasn't asking for legal tactics this time, he was searching for pastoral guidance. While there's no transcript of what was said, church aides quietly confirmed that the Archbishop urged Harry toward reconciliation, grounded entirely in the welfare of his children. His message, gentle but firm: Harry's greatest duty now isn't to his brand or his battles, it's to the third generation of his own bloodline. Interestingly, Prince Harry hasn't challenged the protocol in court. Not yet. Legal experts say his silence may come down to fear. Specifically, fear of what might surface under cross-examination about Clause 7 of his 2018 prenuptial agreement. That's the infamous clause whispered to give Meghan total narrative control over Harry's personal story. Every chapter, every interview, every script. Now, some legal minds believe the Royal Emergency Guardianship Protocol could actually be Harry's secret escape hatch, his only legal trapdoor. By accepting it, he might invoke the doctrine of duress, arguing that when the state intervenes on behalf of the crown, it overrides any private contract. If that theory holds, it could rewrite not only his marriage terms but the entire balance of royal power. Meanwhile, the 10-day countdown still flashes red on Princess Anne's desk, a symbol of a monarchy locked in a psychological and moral showdown. What began as a clash of egos has transformed into something far deeper, a battle for the soul of the institution. The palace has stopped asking politely. Now they're demanding compliance, not as an act of punishment, but as what they call a humanitarian runway. The relocation of the children to Crown-supervised protection isn't being painted as confiscation, it's being sold as liberation from the same identity wars that once tore their father apart. The Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, drove this message home during a brief but piercing statement at St. Bartholomew's Hospital. Her words hit hard. Duty to minors is not a negotiable brand, it's constitutional oxygen. By tying the children's right to privacy directly to the monarchy's right to exist, the Crown has seized the moral upper hand, and the public seems to agree. The latest polls show an 8-point surge in royal approval, powered mostly by younger voters who see the guardianship clause not as cold tradition, but as a rare moment of clarity and purpose from the palace. The message from the palace is final: the casualties of the tabloid wars end with Harry. There will be no sequel, no repeat, and no new generation of royal victims. Archie and Lilibet will never face the digital age version of the little copper taunts that once scarred their father's childhood, not while Princess Anne holds the key to the vault. When Anne unleashed the digital freeze mandate, it didn't just shake the United Kingdom, it sent a global shockwave through the entertainment industry. The Sussex brand didn't just stumble, it was decapitated overnight in the high-stakes boardrooms of Los Angeles and New York. What many first dismissed as a family dispute quickly turned into something far more serious, a full-blown compliance crisis that made investors panic. Within 48 hours of Anne's announcement, the image rights of Archie and Lilibet had become radioactive. Even Hollywood couldn't touch them. Netflix, once the Sussexes' biggest ally and benefactor, was the first to fold. Leaked internal memos obtained by The Hollywood Reporter revealed that the streaming powerhouse had quietly slapped an indefinite legal freeze on every Sussex-linked development slate. The risk wasn't just reputational anymore, it was structural, threatening contracts, investors, and entire media divisions. With the British Crown now claiming absolute authority over the children's likenesses, any production daring to show even a single frame of them faced the threat of worldwide injunctions. That sent an unmistakable chill through the entertainment world. Disney Plus soon followed, abruptly canceling a rumored high-budget animated pilot said to feature a transatlantic princess in the city. The financial fallout was instant and devastating. Industry analysts slashed the projected lifetime value of the Sussex media brand to near zero. One top Hollywood agent summed it up with brutal precision. This isn't just a PR nightmare, it's commercial excommunication. The royal reset had done what no critic or scandal could. It erased the Sussexes from the business map almost overnight. No Hollywood studio, no matter how rich, bold, or powerful, is willing to go head-to-head with a sovereign state over a toddler's image rights. While the Crown was moving with the precision and speed of a Silicon Valley tech giant, Montecito fell completely silent. But this silence didn't read as strength. It looked like total decision paralysis. Then, at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, a flicker of defiance finally appeared. Meghan posted a short 9-word Instagram story. Motherhood is courage when the world misreads you. It was classic attention economics theater, short and emotional, designed to pull focus, but the post lasted only 7 minutes before disappearing. Screenshots spread instantly, yet to many, the gesture didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like a desperate gasp for air. The backlash was fierce and fast. Sentiment polling showed Meghan's message trailing the palace by a brutal 40-point credibility gap. For the first time since their California reinvention, the Sussex narrative machine was breaking down. Their spin wasn't landing, not even online. The digital tide had turned, and the palace wasn't letting go. Behind the scenes, the siege intensified, reinforced by top-tier intelligence and global humanitarian backing. The GCHQ, Britain's elite signals intelligence agency, quietly deployed advanced image scrub algorithms across social media, tracking and flagging any unauthorized photos of the royal children for takedown. This digital perimeter formed a wall no paparazzi could breach. Then came a stunning twist, a surprising ally: UNICEF. The International Child Protection Body released a cautious but supportive statement, praising the palace's total ban on child image commercialization. They called it a watershed moment for child protection in the influencer age. With that endorsement, the Crown's position gained moral armor, and Montecito's silence grew louder. The message was clear. In this new era of the royal reset, even the world's most powerful celebrities were no match for a monarchy that had learned to play and win in the digital arena. The UNICEF endorsement hit Meghan's humanitarian image like a wrecking ball. It wiped away the moral high ground she'd spent years carefully building during her time in London and left her brand standing on shaky ground. Inside Buckingham Palace, analysts weren't watching this fall emotionally. They were tracking it scientifically through a secret data dashboard known as the Commercial Exhaustion Index. This in-house system measures everything: liquidity, marketability, and legal exposure, calculating the exact moment when a public figure's resources collapse just before total surrender to royal authority. And Meghan's score, it was sitting at a dangerous 19 on March 4th. Then came the hits. Talent agencies issued cease advance notices on pending podcast and audio projects, and a major Silicon Valley investment fund suddenly pulled its letter of intent for her lifestyle commerce startup. Within hours, that index jumped to 58, only 2 points shy of the palace's internal threshold for total liquidity crisis. She was teetering right on the edge of a full financial blackout. Adding to the squeeze, the tripartite shield Princess Anne, Prince William, and Duchess Sophie closed ranks like a royal task force. They made sure no alternative narrative could survive. Every time Sussex publicists tried to spin the guardianship move as neo-colonial confiscation, the palace fired back instantly. Armed with pediatric health files, school enrollment forms for Thomas's Battersea and Eton Pre-Prep, and a message focused not on emotion but on duty. It was a tactical masterstroke, the monarchy translating scandal into structure, chaos into policy. The fight wasn't emotional anymore. It was bureaucratic, procedural, unstoppable. By the time the U.S. Department of Homeland Security officially flagged the children's American passports, the siege was complete. The palace had cut every financial and narrative lifeline, boxing Meghan into silence and locking down the next generation under royal protection once and for all. By this point, Meghan wasn't battling a family feud. She was up against a global consensus. The world had quietly decided that the crown controlled the clock, the courtroom, and the children's future. It wasn't malice driving the silence, it was pragmatism. The monarchy had stopped playing by the rules of celebrity and started enforcing the rules of the state. Inside Buckingham Palace, one symbol captured it all: the clock on Princess Anne's desk. Its digital numbers glowed a predatory red, casting light across the darkened corridor. That countdown had become the most watched clock in the world, and as March 10th crept closer, Westminster's air grew heavy with anticipation. But the real earthquake didn't hit London, it hit California. On March 8th, in Courtroom C of the Santa Barbara Superior Court, the royal reset went from threat to reality. Presiding was Judge Ramirez, known for his razor-sharp interpretation of child welfare law, a man who doesn't bend for politics, titles, or theatrics. The courtroom was packed to capacity, standing room only, but the most crucial figure wasn't even in the room. Meghan appeared via a flickering video link, her camera turned off, her silence echoing louder than words. Then, the first hammer fell. The court-appointed attorney for the children stunned everyone by filing an ex parte motion, arguing that the ongoing online monetization of the minors posed immediate harm. It was a brutal moment, the kind that shifts an entire narrative in seconds. Suddenly, this wasn't about palaces or protocols anymore, it was about American child welfare law. The royal reset had crossed oceans and entered a U.S. courtroom, backed not by royal decree but by the universal language of legal protection. What began as a royal drama had transformed into an international legal reckoning, and the world was watching every second of it tick down on that glowing red clock. Meghan's legal team made a last-ditch plea, asking Judge Ramirez for a 2-week continuance to pursue private mediation. It was a desperate grab for time, a chance to breathe, but the judge shut it down immediately, citing 2 explosive documents that had landed on his desk that very morning. the formal default notice on the Montecito estate's bridge loan, and an Interpol pre-notification packet tied to the Dubai financier already under investigation. His reasoning was blunt and brutal. A household in total financial and legal collapse is not a stable environment for two royal minors. And with that, the courtroom fell silent. Then came the moment that broke the Sussex alliance apart for good. A sealed diplomatic pouch from the British consulate in Los Angeles was brought before the court. Inside lay a notarized affidavit signed by Prince Harry himself. What happened next sent shockwaves through every royal watcher and journalist tuned in. In a move that stunned even his closest circle, Harry didn't challenge the protocol. He supported it. His affidavit formally recognized the Royal Emergency Guardianship Protocol as both lawful and necessary. He didn't fight it. Instead, he asked only for the right to resume his paternal role after a personal conduct review was complete. The message couldn't have been clearer. Harry had surrendered. He chose the safety of his children over the survival of the Sussex brand. The palace's legal team wasted no time. They entered his affidavit into evidence, a masterstroke that left Meghan standing alone against not just the crown, but now her own husband. And while the courtroom drama raged, the financial screws were twisting to their limit. Inside Buckingham Palace, analysts watched the commercial exhaustion index climb with predatory precision, tracking Meghan's empire inching closer to its final breaking point. The commercial exhaustion index finally crossed the red line. 60, that was the tipping point. Within hours, the financial collapse became official. American Express filed an amended complaint in a New York federal court, expanding its $2.3 million claim to include anticipatory fraudulent conveyance. The accusation? Meghan had allegedly funneled part of her book advance into a Cayman Islands subsidiary, just 4 days after the royal protocol had been activated. By nightfall on March 8, Bank of America took the final swing, freezing the accounts entirely. Cash flow didn't just slow down, it flatlined. The lifestyle startup, the audio projects, the streaming pitches, all dead in the water. The Sussexes weren't just cornered anymore, they were bankrupt, legally, financially, and symbolically. Back in courtroom C, Judge Ramirez turned to the screen, to Meghan, still silent behind a dark camera, and asked one chilling question. Can the mother guarantee financial and physical stability for these minors? Those words hung in the air like a verdict before the verdict. Then came a 50-minute recess. 50 minutes of pure silence that felt like 50 years. No new evidence arrived. No billionaire benefactor swooped in to save the Montecito estate. No studio came forward with a last-minute deal. The silence became the answer. At 4:37 p.m. Pacific time, Judge Ramirez returned and signed the interim order. It was done. Archie and Lilibet were to be placed under United Kingdom diplomatic custody no later than 2 p.m. the following afternoon at Terminal 3 Los Angeles International Airport. The decision automatically triggered the Hague Convention's enforcement mechanism. Within minutes, word spread that the Crown's RAF Voyager, which had been quietly waiting in a standby position at LAX for days, had received the official clearance signal. Engines were prepped. Diplomatic security was deployed. The royal reset had reached its final act, and the most powerful celebrity couple on Earth had just been overpowered not by fame, not by media, but by law, precision, and time. The RAF Voyager received its final clearance, wheels up for London. Inside the Cabinet Office briefing room, Princess Anne sat still, her face unreadable. No celebration, no applause, just a quiet, knowing smile. She reached into the pocket of her blazer and felt the cool weight of the silver USB drive, the same device that had set this entire chain of events in motion. Calmly, she instructed her aides to draft a joint diplomatic statement, one that would project poise, gratitude, and control. It emphasized appreciation for judicial cooperation and respect for the children's American heritage. Even now, with total victory in hand, the palace held the narrative steady, humanitarian to the very end. By the next afternoon, March 9th, the countdown had become reality. A convoy of black SUVs, engines low and tinted windows sealed, rolled up to a discreet side gate at LAX around 1:44 p.m. The private security detail escorting them looked drained, defeated, their body language telling the story no statement could. 2 small children, faces hidden beneath canvas hats, were quietly guided through a side door. No cameras, no spectacle, no noise. Waiting on the other side was a UK consular team accompanied by pediatric specialists from Great Ormond Street Hospital. Every document was checked, passports were verified, medical discs exchanged, personal effects catalogued. It wasn't chaos, it was precision, a military operation disguised as a custody transfer. Exactly 7 minutes later, the final boarding call was made. The diplomatic team and the children climbed the stairs and entered the waiting aircraft. At 3:32 p.m. Pacific time, the RAF Voyager lifted off its engines, humming low as it turned east toward the Atlantic, bound for the gray skies of Oxford. Only then, after the wheels left American soil and the plane cleared U.S. airspace, did Princess Anne lean forward, reach for the glowing timer on her desk, and press stop. The countdown that had ruled every heartbeat in the palace was over, the mission was complete, and the royal reset was no longer just policy, it was history in motion. The glowing red numbers froze. The countdown that had haunted the palace for 10 relentless days finally stopped, marking the end of one of the most intense 10-day crises in modern royal history. The silver USB drive, the spark that ignited the entire storm, was quietly lifted from Princess Anne's desk and locked inside a secure case, sealed for transfer to the royal archives, where it would remain hidden under official seal. The siege of Montecito was over. The royal reset was complete. The children were on their way home, and the crown had proven its message with chilling clarity. Headlines may fade in ink, but the law of the throne is written in iron. There were no flashing lights, no paparazzi chaos, no social media theatrics. March 9th unfolded not as a spectacle, but as a moment of deliberate silence, a silence so thick it almost felt physical. At 1:38 p.m., the private security convoy from the Montecito estate pulled into a restricted high-security zone at Terminal 3 of Los Angeles International Airport. No cameras were permitted, no leaks slipped through, and no final statements were made. The digital image moratorium was being enforced with absolute precision. Not a single unauthorized frame of the event existed. Two small figures, faces hidden beneath wide-brimmed canvas hats, were led quietly through a side door and into a world now governed by diplomatic immunity. Inside the secure lounge, a hand-picked United Kingdom consular team stood waiting, composed, formal, and focused. They didn't greet the children as public figures or media assets. They greeted them as wards of the state. Standing nearby, a discreet medical unit from Great Ormond Street Hospital, flown in under secrecy from London, began a rapid but thorough health assessment, the kind of detailed examination reserved for national assets under protection. Outside, the tarmac shimmered in the California sun, a kingdom's quiet power moving beneath the surface, silent but unstoppable. The monarchy hadn't just reclaimed two children, it had reclaimed control. The team from Great Ormond Street Hospital wasn't there for ceremony. They were there to verify every medical dossier couriered weeks earlier, through a diplomatic pouch, confirming that the health continuity pillar of the royal protocol was being upheld with flawless precision and ethical transparency. Passports were scanned, birth certificates cross-referenced against the genealogy escrow, and by 1:51 p.m. every required signature had dried on the final documents. In that exact moment, Archie and Lilibet ceased to fall under California's jurisdiction. For all legal and diplomatic purposes, they were now on British soil. The transition was silent, clinical, and absolute. Once the children stepped across the threshold of the waiting RAF Voyager, the departure unfolded like a military ballet. Every movement was timed to the second. At 3:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Voyager's massive Rolls-Royce engines roared to life, echoing across the tarmac. This wasn't a commercial flight, it was a sovereign operation. As the jet taxied toward the runway, aviation enthusiasts and royal watchers around the world froze, eyes locked on flight tracking screens. The call sign Sparrow 1 appeared, climbing over the Pacific before banking sharply northeast. For a brief moment, thousands of people online held their breath, watching history take off in real time. This was more than a flight. It was the Great Reversal, a symbolic return that mirrored the journey their father had made 6 years before. But unlike that first voyage driven by dreams of privacy, autonomy, and independence, this return was powered by something colder, sharper, and unyielding, the necessity of the royal reset. Meanwhile, 5,000 miles away in London, the capital stood still. The skies over Westminster seemed to hold their breath, suspended in quiet expectation. Inside the palace, staff whispered instead of speaking. For the first time in decades, the fate of the monarchy didn't rest on a coronation, a scandal, or a speech, but on a flight, streaking silently across the Atlantic toward home. Princess Anne sat alone in the dim light of the Cabinet Office briefing room, the hum of distant machines the only sound in the air. Her eyes stayed locked on the red glow of the countdown timer that had ruled her desk and the world for 10 relentless days. Beside it rested the silver USB drive, its secrets sealed, its threat still very much alive. For 10 days straight, that timer had dictated the rhythm of global headlines, tick by tick, second by second. It was the symbol of the crown's refusal to blink in the face of transatlantic defiance. The Princess Royal didn't move, didn't reach for her phone, didn't speak. She simply watched. At exactly 11:32 p.m. London time, a secure encrypted message pulsed onto the main monitor. Cargo in international airspace. Jurisdiction confirmed. The meaning was unmistakable. The RAF Voyager had crossed the invisible line. The aircraft was now beyond the reach of any last-minute American court order. The Hague enforcement was final. The children were officially under the protection of the king's flight. For a brief moment, Anne exhaled, not relief, but quiet resolve. The weight she had carried since the dawn of February 24th finally eased, if only slightly. With calm precision, she reached forward, her hands steady despite the pressure that had shadowed her for days. She pressed the stop button on the timer. The red digits that had burned through 10 days of tension blinked once and vanished, replaced by a dull gray screen. That was it. The siege of Montecito was officially over. The operation was complete. The timer had fulfilled its purpose, and the tiny device that had ignited an international crisis, that infamous USB drive, was carefully prepared for transfer. It would be sealed inside a lead-lined, tamper-proof case and delivered under armed escort to the deepest vaults of the royal archives at Windsor. The world would move on. But for Princess Anne, that frozen clock and that small silver drive would remain as silent witnesses to the moment the monarchy reclaimed its power in absolute, unbreakable form. There were no flashing cameras, no royal speeches, and no victory laps from Buckingham Palace. The wind was too heavy, too steeped in consequence for any celebration. As the RAF Voyager cleared the edge of the American coastline and climbed higher into the night, its engines humming against the wind, an entire era quietly ended. The age of Sussex autonomy dissolved into the clouds. The crown hadn't just won a custody dispute, it had reasserted the primal law of the bloodline. After years of scandal, spin, and spectacle, gravity had finally pulled everything back to center. The historic migration was over, and as the aircraft streaked eastward through the darkness, chasing the sunrise toward Brize Norton, the world began to understand the real balance of power. A mother may have courage, but a monarchy has the clock, the law, and the final word. By dawn on March 10th, London awoke to a scene few had ever expected to witness. Under a pale Oxford sky, Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana stepped down from the aircraft, escorted quietly by uniformed staff and medical officers from the royal household. There were no microphones, no posed smiles, only the calm precision of protocol and the low hum of engines cooling on the tarmac. Across Britain, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Polling showed an 80% public approval rating for the operation, with even critics acknowledging the palace's child-first framing of the royal reset. For many, it marked a turning point, the moment the monarchy stopped defending itself and started defining itself again. Behind the scenes, the fate of the infamous silver USB drive was sealed as well. Palace advisors confirmed that no further disclosures would be released. The crown had chosen mercy over obliteration, restraint over spectacle. The files, the same ones that had held the power to ignite a global financial scandal, would now rest forever sealed in the royal archives. The message, unspoken but unmistakable, echoed across both sides of the Atlantic. The reset was complete, and the monarchy had reclaimed its silence, its legacy, and its unbreakable control. The royal reset now stands as a silent deterrent, a warning to anyone who might ever try to weaponize parenthood again. For the children, life begins anew, quiet, shielded, and free from the furnace of social media and its monetized chaos. They are no longer headlines or hashtags. They are once again simply children, breathing what Princess Anne called constitutional oxygen. 2 days later, Prince Harry arrived at Windsor under discreet escort, stepping into a private debriefing away from cameras and commentary. His road back to full royal rehabilitation will be long, marked by strict guardrails and institutional oversight, but the gates to fatherhood have reopened, now under the crown's protection. For Meghan, however, the horizon is far less forgiving. What lies ahead is a maze of litigation, debt restructuring, and brand dismantling. The glamour that once powered her global image has been stripped bare, leaving only the legal residue of a lifestyle once fueled by royal access. The empire of attention has crumbled, and with it the illusion of control. Yet beyond the scandal and spectacle, this saga has rewritten the modern royal crisis playbook. It proved that the monarchy can move with digital age speed while keeping its ancient dignity intact. In a world where headlines shift by the second, the crown has learned not just to survive the storm but to master it. As the world's focus drifts to the next trending controversy, the lesson of the royal reset endures. Princess Anne's final words, spoken behind closed doors in Westminster, now echo through the institution's marble halls. Serve first, speak last, and keep the sword sheathed unless the children bleed. The monarchy didn't just outlast the age of attention economics, it conquered it. The calendar is cleared, the vault is locked, and the third generation of Windsors is finally, safely home. If this story gripped you, like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Let's talk about the royal reset, its impact, and what it means for the future of the monarchy.